Hi, Tim Sales here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a prospect call that I just had 2 days ago where the prospect had concerns about network marketing. And so what you're going to learn from this video is that how I organize and do prospecting calls, and what you'll also learn is how I handle specific objections, as well as how do I use the awareness level of the prospect and the sophistication level of the prospect to communicate at the prospect's level. And so let's jump right into this. Okay, so the first three things that I always do with a prospecting call is I want to know what is the desire the prospect has. That's number one. Number two is how much does he or she know about my product or my business or products like mine. Okay, and so this establishes their awareness level. And then number three is how many similar products have they been told about before? This establishes their sophistication level. All right, you'll learn more about this in here. Okay, so this, I'm just going to call this prospect Bob, all right? He was a referral from another person that is in my organization. And that person was in another country and really busy at the time, and so he asked me to give this gentleman a call. All right, and so I did. Okay, so the awareness level. All right, so how do you even think about this awareness level thing when all you've got is he's got concerns about network marketing? All right, so let's say, all right, so I'm going to be looking at this problem aware right here. Senses he has a problem, doesn't know of a solution. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that this prospect would have a problem that he's trying to solve, and he doesn't have any solutions. Okay, so I know he's not there because if he has problems with network marketing, at least he's looking. Okay, so that moves him over into he's solution aware, and that means that he knows results he wants, doesn't know your product. All right, well, I didn't know for sure whether or not the person in my organization had sent him a link or something. Okay, so if so, then he would be product aware, knows of the product but unsure. Okay, so since the statement was he has concerns about network marketing, I had to assume basically somewhere between these 2 points, all right? Product aware and solution aware. Regardless, he had doubts about the solution. That's what it sounded like to me based on what it was. Therefore, he is going to doubt my company because he has doubts in network marketing. All right, I hope that makes sense to you, because now you can see how I use this awareness level scale in order to plot kind of like what's going to be my game plan on this call, right? So now let's move to sophistication level. So the sophistication level is how many network marketing companies has he been in? Has he been in none? And so therefore he's looking at it with no sophistication? Or is he very sophisticated and therefore he's jaded because if he's got concerns about it? All right, so I had to just kind of plot what I thought or what I perceived in the thing, and so I put him at either a 2 or a 3. Okay, and so as I walk through our discussion, you're going to be able to see whether I was right or wrong. Okay, so what I want to point out here is that I have a slight advantage by knowing his awareness and sophistication level, but I don't know for sure. But at least I have a direction to travel in first. Okay. All right. So number one, I use the inviting formula always. There's never a call with anybody on any subject that I don't use the inviting formula. So number one, my plan is I'm going to get him talking freely to me. This isn't about me talking. This is about me talking enough to draw the other person to feel free to communicate with me. In other words, I have to become safe to this person who I want to talk. Okay? I don't want that person to feel threatened. I don't want that person to fear anything at all. I want the person to say, hey, you know what? This guy's really listening to me. So that is the only time I will ever use any communication on my end is to have him be comfortable in communicating to me, because I want him to tell me what his real concerns are. Number 2 is the qualify step. Does he want what I have? In other words, what is his desire? What is it that that I can serve him with? So this is just one of those things where if that person has a desire that I don't offer, then there's no reason to further the discussion. Although I would just have a friendly call with him, it's fine. Number 3 is to invite the person. Well, he's not my prospect, and so I'm not going to invite him to anything other than the discussion that we're having. And then the close to action step is I'm going to refer him back to his friend. And then the follow-up would be I will message his friend as to my suggested next action. And then handle any question or objection when they come up. That was all I planned to do. So to get him to a condition that he could be invited, right? Because right now he's got issues with network marketing. Okay, so here's the way the call went. So he was a referral. He has concerns about network marketing. In the discussion, I'll tell you what I asked him later. So in a couple of slides, I'll show you that. But here's what he basically communicated to me. I've done a couple of companies, nothing stuck. And by the way, this is the order or sequence that he told these things to me. Network marketing does have a stigma. I looked across the product line and it looks the same. How is this time going to be any different than the others? All right, so key point here is I did not interrupt him. I want all of his concerns. In other words, if he's going to gush out, then I want him to keep gushing until he's got nothing left to gush. Okay, so I want him to just keep on communicating. And then after he's all done, I can go back and I can say, hey, you know, on this network marketing does have a stigma. Can you embellish on that a little bit more? Can you tell me a little bit more about what that stigma is? You know, so now I can drill down a little bit deeper to find out what stigma he's thinking, you see? So that's the way this greet qualify part of the conversation occurred. And so I'll give you a little bit of story in terms of like how did I have the conversation in the greeting part. So it was kind of like, hey, how did you know this person? You know, because he's the one that gave me the referral. And so I said, how do you know this person? And he says, oh, well, we met back at blah, blah, blah. And we've been friends for 15 years and, you know, this kind of a conversation and things. And so, and then he asked me a couple of things about where I lived and I asked him where he lives. And so we went back and forth. And so it was a really open dialogue, freely communicating. He was communicating, I was communicating, and it was, I call it humming. The conversation was humming. It wasn't awkward or any strain or any of that kind of stuff. So that's what I want to get past in the greeting. All right. So then I said, okay, so this person told me that you have concerns about network marketing, and you know, like I'm not here to try to change your mind or anything, but tell me what you got, and I'll share with you what I know about it, you know, from my perspective. And so that was the way we started. So I'll just tell you that since I was in my vehicle driving, I took notes mentally, but whether it be, you know, like if I'm sitting, you know, like, you know, normally when I'm in this room, this is my office, I will have a notepad And, if somebody's talking, I'll just like shorthand the person's concerns. But when I'm driving, then I'm going to categorize these things into certain buckets or containers, if you will. And so what I do is that, like, I've done a few companies and nothing stuck. I moved it down category. Okay. I've created a slide to show you how I work all of this in my head. But in the beginning, when I was really fine tuning this, I would actually like put them in buckets. Okay, so all of those I just changed it, and so what I do is I try to create blocks or similar items in different categories, because I can handle all of them in a category, and it's much more organized for me, and it's much more organized for the prospect. Okay, so here are the blocks that I put into. So number one, any negativity having to do with network marketing goes into category number one. Anything that has to do with building the pipeline, it goes into category number two. Number three, this is the external things. These are things like no money, no time, nobody to talk to, those kinds of things. So that is number three. And then number four is things that have to do with responsibility and self-invalidation. Those things I put in a category called personal development. All right. So what I do is that I handle them in the sequence that you're looking at. So it's number one, then number two, then number three, then number four. Why do I do that? Because when it's really easy for an external conversation about network marketing, okay? So it's not personal to the individual. And then how do you build? How do you do the business? How do you talk to prospects? What do you send them? All that stuff, that's exterior also. All right, so when we start going into the third category, I call it exterior, but there's a bit of, it's closer to the prospect. You have more of a chance of harming or pushing a button that you don't want to push. Okay, so it's you may need to a little bit. You got to be soft, gentle with it, but still it's getting now closer to the person, right? And then the personal development, the responsibility of self-invalidation, that one is very sensitive. And so I want that to be the last part of the conversation, because there is an assertiveness that you kind of have to ease in on. And so I would build more and more and more rapport throughout 1, 2, and 3, so that I could even have the discussion with a prospect having to do with responsibility and self-invalidation. Okay, so that's the reason I do it in this sequence, and this is kind of, now you can see what goes on in the small brain that Tim has. All right, so it's just this quadrant where I work this. Okay, so the very first question that I asked Bob was, what was your original reason that you tried network marketing? That was the way I actually worded it. So I wrote it a little bit different than what like I'm standing here now, I'm back in that conversation, and I remember, what was your original, right? And so he told me exactly what it was, but what I really, really, really wanted to know is that I gotta have his desire before I can ever start the conversation, right? So when I started this presentation, I told you that there's 3 things that you gotta know: the sophistication level, the awareness level, and their desire, in reverse order. You gotta know their desire, all right? And so that's the reason this question was worded the way that I did, all right? So he said freedom, and I said define it, and he did. And he walked through every single component. Why do I do that part? Number one, I want to reinvigorate his original purpose of why he liked in past tense. Why he liked it. Because that desire still exists, right? So now we're going on the awareness levels, or sophisticated level, either one. It doesn't even matter in this conversation. So now we're talking about he's solution aware. It was a solution. He really did think that it was a solution, but nothing stuck. It does have a stigma. All of those things is sitting in front of him, but he's got this desire sitting there. And so I want that, number one. All right. So network marketing does have a stigma. That's the first thing that I brought up. And so how did I handle that objection? I asked him, who created the stigma? That's what I asked him. And he just sort of paused and he was like, I have no idea. And I said, okay, so let me give it to you. And so it was Federal Trade Commission versus Amway. Gosh, a long time ago, 30, 40 years ago. And the media was hammering it. Every twist and turn in the whole thing, the media was just hammering it. And so it was pyramid scheme, pyramid scheme. FTC is suing Amway for being a pyramid scheme, a pyramid scheme, a pyramid scheme, a pyramid scheme. All right, so it was nonstop, okay? And so for that generation that listened to all of that, it was what created the stigma. So those people who were in Amway knew that the FTC lost that. They failed to prove that it was a pyramid scheme. But yet in the eyes and the ears and the thoughts of the people, it was a pyramid scheme. Okay? So I just explained that to him. And I said, they don't attack us, meaning the media or whomever are. They don't attack us because we're bad. They attack us because we're better. And then I explained to him and I said, I just want you to just picture this for just a minute. So why would the whomever not like us? Why would they want the stigma there? And I said, well, just think about, and I said, I'm just going to pretend that I am a sales manager at Procter & Gamble and I hire you to sell our products. And let's say that you went out there and you got, I don't know, you walked into a 7-Eleven and thought, wow, man, there's no reason why we can't have our toothpaste here, our toothbrushes here, our soaps, our shampoos. But there's no reason we can't have them here. And so you go up and you meet the manager or the store, and then you move up to the manager and then his manager and the district manager, and then pretty soon you're at the top of the chain there. And so you're able to acquire all 43,000 7-Eleven stores. Okay, so what do you get? Well, you'll probably be able to keep your job that year, and you'll probably get a bonus, and you'll get your salary. But you're not going to get residual income for life for the acquisition of all of those stores. And that's the thing that large corporations absolutely do not want known. And so, of course, they want to create a stigma around network marketing. And so when I told him that, he's like, wow. All right, so he got it. I could tell by his response he got it. All right, so then I can move on. And one of the other things is that I said, why doesn't the media tell my story? You know, in 7 years I created 57. I didn't create them; they created it themselves. But on my team, $57 million earners in 7 years. 5,401 who made $250,000. So why don't they tell that story? And I just left him with it. And he's like, this is very interesting, right? So he got it. Okay, so that's how I handled that. Okay, so then the next one was I looked across the product line and it all looks the same. Okay, so I explained to him the concept of differentiation. And what's differentiation? How one thing is different than another thing. I don't know. I just got some coins here. So this is a silver dollar and this is a quarter. And so if a person can't differentiate the two of those, then they're not able to get results. They're not able to understand or anything else. You know, if I go to my 6-year-old son, today he knows it, but 2 years ago he didn't know it. It was all the same to him. It was something that was silver. Okay, that's it. This isn't silver. This is silver, right? So they can't differentiate. So that basically is the intelligence about a subject. So I just explained to him that concept, and I said, all right, so when you go to CVS or you go to Walmart or you go to any other store, don't they have the same products? And he said, yeah, pretty much they do. And I said, okay. So what's different about the website that you looked at and those products? And he said, he goes, I can tell by the brands that it's different than what's going to be in a Walmart or something, but in terms of products, they look the same. And I said, by what? Like, how do they look the same? Packaging? You see? So what I'm doing is that I'm slowly drilling in and saying, okay, so, and I just took out a mechanism in one of our products. For those of you who haven't followed me, a mechanism is something about a product that makes it work. So I just pull out a mechanism and I said, have you ever heard this story? And I told him, and he said, no. And I said, I gave him another mechanism of another product, and I said, you ever heard that story? No, never. And do you think that's valuable to a prospect? Yes, definitely. Okay, so now you get how I did it, which was basically exposed to him by differentiation that you can't tell by looking at a website how the products are different. And so we got through that one, and so now he knows how they're different, at least some of them. Okay, so then he said, I've done a few companies, so do you see how I'm now moving into the next category? So now I'm moving into the pipeline stuff. So this is the building. So he says, I've done a few companies, nothing stuck. All right, so I said, all right, so nothing stuck. Tell me about it. And so he would tell, he elaborated a little bit more and everything. I wanted to make sure before I gave him my answer that my answer was going to fulfill and answer his question. So I told him about the pipeline, and it's not difficult for me, even when I'm driving, to say, I just want you to picture a board, and on the left-hand side, you draw a long line all the way down the board, and on that left column there, we're going to call it a lead or a prospect. And so then we're going to move to the next column to the right, and it's a contact. And then you're going to set an appointment to see a presentation. So I just walked him through that on the phone. And then I said, here's my numbers. I said, 1 person out of 20 that I show a presentation. That means I move a lead to the contact, to appointments, to the presentation. 1 out of 20, this is what happened, this was me in the beginning, what I would get 1 rep. Okay? So it was a VHS video at the time, way back in 1989. And so I would have to send 20 prospects in front of that video. So I'd have to send those videos to 20 people. And I never knew if they watched them or not. But I had about a 1 in 20 ratio. Okay. And so it takes about 40 reps in order to find one who will actually do this pipeline with a lot of quantity, the sufficient quantity. And so if he or I is not doing 20 prospects, then we're not going to get a rep. And if we're not doing 40 reps, then we're not ever going to see it, quote, take off. So nothing stuck was his way of saying that nobody took off. And so I just said, you know, these are my numbers. So that is being less assertive to him, because I don't want to invalidate him. I want to more tell him just what my numbers are. And if I do that twice, I make $150,000 a year, about, okay? As long as the volume stays. So I just explained that to him, and then he got it. right? So he was able to see that from a concept basis, right? Okay, so how is this going to be any different than any others? Okay, so now we move over into that column that is personal development, all right? And so here's the way that I handled it. Number one, you're going to be different. That's the difference. It's always going to be you. It's you who builds the business or doesn't build the business. And you're going to know network marketing and win because you know the true reason of the stigma. We're attacked because we're better. Okay? And I told him about all of the comparisons that I've done in network marketing to other industries. And so as my kind of my follow-up or my close to action step, what I did was I told him about this channel, and then that there is a series of comparisons to other industries. You're going to know and do the numbers because that's the only way to freedom. Okay, so remember his desire, freedom. Okay, you got to bring that in on the discussion because that's the desire. That's the thing that sits there. It's the only thing that all of your conversation is riding on. All right, and so you can just picture like there's this carrier wave of what's carrying all of this. Why would he even listen to all of this? He wouldn't if he didn't have that freedom desire. Okay? And so all of my communication rides on the carrier wave for him called freedom. Okay? All right. So just to conclude, so you learned about the greet, you learned about the qualify. On the invite part, he's not my prospect, so I'm not going to invite him other than to say, will you reach back to the friend? Okay, so then the close to action was referring back to his friend. The follow-up is I messaged his friend of the next action, wrote a little bit about like what the conversation went, and then handle any questions and objections, and that was all that I did. Okay, so that concludes the inviting formula part of it. Okay, so let's suppose that this person says yes, all right, and says, yeah, I want to do it. We had the discussion, and it resolved in his mind. But the only way that it's going to fully resolve is for him to shift. He's got to shift. He shifted viewpoints on the industry. He shifted viewpoints on differentiation of products. He shifted on those things. But he's still got to build a business. And whatever it was back then, the experience that caused it not to stick was because he had taken on at least one or all of these character traits. Okay, so if you've followed that series, it's like putting on a jacket. You put on a jacket of procrastination, and you carry that and you wear that jacket, and so you just delay the important stuff. Or you put on a jacket that says, I'm going to be distracted. I'm going to open up 37 tabs in my browser, and I'm going to, and every time there's a ding on my phone, I'm going to look at it. And, so they put on this whole beingness, right? And they put on the confusion thing, saying, that they're not going to prioritize. They're not going to decide. They're going to say, I'll decide that later, and I'll decide that later. And pretty soon you're stuck in so many maybes in life that you're just like, I can't move. Or old habits and routines. And so, I don't know what it is. I can't always relate this to diet. I made a decision back in the military what I was going to eat. And then I was like, wait a minute now. Something's got to change here. So I've got to, in a new time frame, unmake that decision that I made back in the military. I need to do other things. I need to, eat good stuff. So old habits is continuing to do what is giving you what you no longer want, right? And so then there is the playing victim, a reason not to win. That's the only reason a person plays that. And so that's a jacket, coat you put on, or a hat you put on. It's the invalidation of self, viewing yourself as less or unable. Well, Tim can do it. Oh man, stop the invalidation of self, right? You got to get rid of all of these traits. And then move over and pick up the traits that you have to have. And that is the reason that something happens or doesn't happen. That's the definition of responsibility. And so, like if I put my kids in a car and we're going to drive to school, I have a job to do. I've got a responsibility to have them at that school on time. And I also have to have the responsibility of not getting in a wreck on the way, right? So it's the reason something happens or doesn't happen. I have to assume that responsibility. That's a good coat to put on. Ownership, responsibility for all that affects your business. And so if the media is attacking us, we have to take ownership. Okay? We do. Right? So number one, I drilled down and figured out exactly why we have the stigma. Right? And I was like, man, this is actually an advantage. Because most people will elbow it, will say no, and okay, that's fine. They are welcome to be kind of followers of the media. I don't know who today would follow the media. I really do not. If they haven't revealed that they are pure puppets to us, I don't know what else you need to see, right? Like it's just all the pounding of the last couple of years has just, of a lie, right? So anyway, that's what I talk about when I say responsibility for all that affects your business. And so way back when I first got the stigma from somebody, they told me about it, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't even know what Amway was. I thought Amway was a train because I lived in Washington, D.C. and they had an Amtrak. And I thought Amway was a train. So anyway, that was my stupidity. But as I began to hear it over and over and over, I said, I got to dig into this. I got to figure this out. What really happened? How did the stigma pyramid get attached to the business? And so that's why I figured it out. All right. So an ownership has training intent, right? You got to get trained. So if that person didn't know how to differentiate products, then, man, they got to get in there and differentiate products, okay? If they can't differentiate our business from other businesses, then they're not going to be effective in there. And then the accountability, get the results, no matter the excuse. Of course you're tired. Of course. Have that as the excuse why you won. Right? So everybody's got excuses. Have excuses as to why you will get it done. And then there's commitment, which is do the reps every day, no matter. Okay? So the next one is showing up fired up to win the day. And that is every day. So don't show up tired. Don't show up unprofessional. Don't, like in your own house, right? So don't show up in the wrong way. So show up fired up. So those are the traits that I would get this gentleman to assume and ask him to remove those, all right? And so that would then move right straight into pipeline training. So now you guys can see the whole trail of my videos where I did an area about personal development in terms of like, all right, setting your goals, decide where you want to go. All right, so now you're going to have to put on these good traits, and you're going to have to get rid of these old traits because these old traits are what's giving you whatever it is that you have today. And what you want to have, you're going to have all of those traits. Okay, so I appreciate you watching this. If you don't mind, please comment and tell me what your thoughts are on this prospecting call. So specifically, what did you learn about the way that I do the call that maybe is different than the way that you do a call? and the next one is, did you now see, if you've been following all of my awareness level videos and my sophistication level videos, I know they've been abstract to you. I know it. Like, I knew it when I started, but there is no other way that I could see to train it other than the fact that once they see it and they listen to it, and then I attach it to an actual experience, then they're going to get it. They're going to go, oh my gosh, now it's very clear. So marketers use the sophistication level and the awareness level, and it's really good at creating marketing content. And so I wanted people to know how to do that in social media posts and stuff, and so I trained it. But you can't ever go outbound on a phone call without at least thinking about their awareness levels and their sophistication level in the industry or for a product. Okay, and so if you don't mind, if you could just comment, do you see the advantage of knowing awareness and sophistication levels? And then also, I just wanted to let you know that my videographer had something that he had to handle and this week, and so I just jumped in. I said, you know what, it's fine, because I think now is a great time for me to attach an experience to all that I've been training. But I do owe you a summary video, and I also owe you an answer to the question that I've kept going all through these series, which is, should you sift with the same tool? So I owe you an answer specifically to that. So if you like this video and you want me to continue to do videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And then also we have a Telegram channel. It's called Network Marketing Power, NWM Power on Telegram. You are welcome to just go in there and just click yes to subscribing to it, and then you'll get our updates. And also you can go in and you can ask questions, and then I get to answer the question, and everybody gets to see the answer. And so you get to see everybody else's answer. So it's just a way for me to, give back to the industry and, and help you guys succeed. So I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much.